Morning, buenos dias. Welcome to the 1st District, State Senate District. I've been representing this district for 21 years. I am so proud. We have a great community, not only in the Pilsen area, but throughout the entire 1st District. Without further ado, I want to introduce our great governor of the state. Today, he is going to sign into law 2 major bills for immigration. Governor, thank you so much for what you've accomplished so much in a short amount of time since you've been governor. Governor Pritzker, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you very much, Leader Munoz. Thank you all very much, and thank you for your leadership in Springfield, too, and good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I want to thank the entire staff here and the board of the National Museum of Mexican Art for hosting us today. They've always been very generous with allowing us to have events in their rooms, and it means a lot to us. And of course, this is a tremendous cultural institution that I hope everybody will come and enjoy when they have a chance to. Policy change is best paired with cultural understanding, and I'm so proud that this institution bridges cultures through art. And does so with communities all across the state of Illinois. I also want to first thank the legislative change makers behind these 2 bills. Representative Gong Gershowitz, who led the charge on both pieces of legislation, bringing her experience and expertise to immigration law. This is her first term in office, first 6 months in office, and she is truly a dynamo. I also want to thank her co-sponsor, Senator Villavalum, to Senator Castro, who led these bills through the Senate, and to Representative Ma and Leader Munoz, in whose district we are, and who were essential in helping us to get big things done this year in Springfield, and to all of the co-sponsors and legislators who made this legislation possible. I want to just quickly remind you who they are, the ones who are here today. Representatives Ramirez, Cassidy, Stava Murray, Andrade, Walker, Feigenholtz, Williams, Gable, Mueller, Hernandez, Lilly, Willis, and there are others who couldn't be here today, but these are tremendous leaders, people that I've had the great chance to work with this last spring to get an awful lot done, and especially on these 2 particular bills. I want to recognize the ongoing efforts of the advocates who work each and every day to ensure justice, security, and decency for the people that they serve. The Chicago Volunteer Legal Services Organization, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, ICER, PASO Action, the National Immigrant Justice Center, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, the HANA Center, and the North Suburban Legal Aid Center, and many others that I have not mentioned. The organizations that are represented here today, along with so many others across our state, have been tireless advocates since long before I came into office. I could not be more honored to serve as their partner in protecting our communities. The accomplishments that we've secured together, banning for-profit detention centers, protecting our residents from local collaborations with federal immigration forces, expanding access to welcome centers, and financial aid for higher education, have been done in the name of a shared belief, a belief that we all here share together, and that I believe is representative of the people of the state of Illinois. Nobody should be treated ever as less than a person because of where they were born. That's not the message that's coming from Washington. Just this morning, the Trump administration announced a new class of undocumented immigrants to be subjected to expedited deportation. Once again, they are demonizing people who don't look and think like they do. That's wrong for America, and it's wrong for Illinois. I believe in an Illinois where all people have access to opportunity and the ability to thrive, where all people can get the education that they need, not only to find a job that works for them, but to fuel their curiosities about the world. I believe in an Illinois that is proud to call 1.8 million immigrants our neighbors and friends, a state where 1 in 6 workers is an immigrant, and where 120,000 immigrant business owners fuel our economic growth. A state where immigrants educate our young, take care of our sick, lead organizations, and keep our families safe. I believe in an Illinois where we can all be proud of those who love our communities enough to hold them to the ideals that they preach. Today, in this institution that celebrates a culture that is so important to the fabric of our state, I'm proud to sign 2 bills into law that protect Illinois families. The first offers greater stability to the lives of immigrant children here. As long as Washington is dominated by a philosophy that threatens Illinois families, we can and we will give parents the dignity of knowing that their children are in trusted hands, allowing them to name a short-term guardian in the case of their own detention or deportation. This bill also extends short-term guardianship arrangements for the children of immigrants for up to 2 years. And it provides judicial discretion to consider granting guardianship of a minor when a parent can't provide consent due to an unforeseen separation. The second piece of legislation creates a pathway for undocumented youth who have experienced great trauma to secure residency, aligning the laws on our books here in Illinois with those already in existence at the federal level. These are children who have experienced abuse, neglect, or abandonment, children who often know no home beyond this nation. They deserve all the hope that we can give them, and that starts with stability. Let me be perfectly clear. The state of Illinois stands as a firewall against Donald Trump's attacks on our immigrant communities. To immigrant families and advocates here today and across our state, know that you have a partner in the governor's office who is committed to protecting you, and I will never back down. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce the principal sponsor of these 2 pieces of legislation, someone who has done a tremendous job over the first 6 months that she's served in Springfield, and someone who will be a leader for the future of the state of Illinois, Representative Gong Gershowitz.
Good morning, everyone. At a time when we are often left feeling helpless and heartbroken by images of desperation at our border, outraged by a policy that separates children from their parents, and sickened by conditions in detention centers that amount to outright child abuse, this is our opportunity to do something to protect immigrant children in Illinois. We will fight to keep families safe and families together in our state. This is our home. And by Governor Pritzker signing House Bill 836 today, the law in Illinois will say that in our state, parents will decide who takes care of their children if they are detained or deported. Not ICE, not Customs and Border Patrol, parents. While the most rational and humane policy wouldn't separate families at all, this legislation gives parents the ability to choose another family member or a trusted adult to care for their children in their absence. House Bill 1553 protects abused, abandoned, and neglected children by enabling them to receive the court findings necessary at the state level to apply for a special immigrant juvenile visa. By signing these 2 bills today, Illinois is doing all we can to protect children and keep families together here in our state. This work is incredibly personal to me. I am the granddaughter of undocumented Chinese immigrants who face discrimination and deportation under the Chinese Exclusion Acts. I would not be here today as only the 2nd Asian American to serve in the Illinois House and the only immigration lawyer in the Illinois General Assembly without the courage of advocates who stood with my family to challenge the injustice of race-based immigration laws. I am wearing my grandmother's jade earring around my neck as a reminder of her courage and her sacrifice. She didn't back down in the face of discrimination. She stood up and she fought back, and so will we. In the most time-honored American tradition there is, we will organize, we will advocate, and we will participate in our democracy to create change. It was my passion for advocacy, for standing for the rights of others that led me to take on child traffickers as a first-year lawyer at Winston & Strawn over 20 years ago. And it was that same passion that led me to a run for a seat in the General Assembly. To my brothers and sisters who stand up and fight injustice in all its forms, know that I will be with you always. Our communities are safer when no one lives in fear of their family being ripped apart. This legislation gives immigrant parents a tool to keep their families safe and gives us the ability to help grandmothers, like my client, who wanted to calm the fears of her granddaughter who would scream and cry until her grandmother squeezed her under the bed every time she heard a siren outside. This is about giving families peace of mind, and while it may not stop the detention and deportation of every parent, it is certainly a better option for children than a Mylar blanket on a concrete floor. I am proud to stand up and defend children today, and I want to thank Governor Pritzker for never wavering in your commitment to justice. Thank you for showing what it means to protect our most vulnerable in our state. I want to thank my colleagues in the House who are here with me today. Thank you for your support on the House floor. Thank you for having my back as we work to pass this legislation. I want to thank the Senate sponsors who carried this bill in the Senate, Senator Ram Villavalem and Senator Christina Castro. I want to thank the organizations who worked with me in Springfield tirelessly to get these bills done. Danielle Gomez from the Cook County Public Guardian's Office, Meg Beck, Moni Ruiz Velasco from Paso Action, ICIRR, Fred Sau. I also want to thank the Representative Delia Ramirez, who spoke with heartfelt passion on the House floor in support of House Bill 1553 in honor of her sister. I want to thank my family who's here with me today, my son Ryan, who spent his spring break on the House floor in Springfield to watch his mom pass these two bills.
Let's see if he puts periods after JB.
I love the soundtrack that you're providing.
One more.
Yeah, one more.
Terrific. We're going to take a few questions from members of the media, and
There is this Border Patrol symposium here. Your thoughts on that? I know the mayor tried to have it moved.
to have this conference moved. I supported her in that effort, believe she was right. Look, it wasn't moved, and so, as you know, I do not agree with the President of the United States, with his Department of Homeland Security, with his CBP, and others who are enforcing these wrongful new regulations. And I think we need to speak out, and we need to speak out loudly today. As they are in town, perhaps they will hear us louder and more clearly today. But I think it's appropriate that we're signing these bills on this day when they're here in town, because Illinois is a welcoming state and will always be, and these bills are just two examples of how we are making it more welcoming and the most welcoming state in the United States.
Governor, we haven't seen you since the Sarah settlement happened or the announcement was made. What kind of legislation do you support? You talked about like a cleanup legislation. Do you support the ban of ethylene oxide? There seems to be some confusion as to whether you and your administration supports that.
Well, let's step back. Remember that back at the beginning of my administration, I issued a seal order to close Sterigenics entirely. And then the Attorney General stepped in and went to court to defend that seal order, which he did successfully. And the purpose, because you can't seal on a permanent basis, the purpose is to allow the legislature enough time to introduce a bill. I said to leaders in the legislature, and my administration has said all along, they should pass the most stringent law that they could pass. So we gave that to the leader of the Republicans in the House and to the other representatives from the area around Willowbrook. And they went back and wrote a piece of legislation, and I said I would sign the toughest piece of legislation they put forward, and I did. They put forward a piece of legislation, I signed it, and then they had second thoughts, I think, about what they had put forward. So I simply suggested to them that if they wanted to change that bill, they ought to step up and suggest a new piece of legislation. They're the representatives of the people of Willowbrook. And the people of Willowbrook deserve to have representatives who will stand up for the most stringent law that they can get passed. And again, I will sign it. I'm happy to do it in the veto session. I'm happy to do it in a special session, however they would like to do it. But that's been my position all along.
But is this agreement that was made, is that related to the legislation, or was your administration talking kind of before and kind of negotiating this plan?
No, this became a legal matter for the Attorney General, the elected Attorney General, and the state's attorney from DuPage County, who carried this into court. The legislation does a lot, but not as much as the consent order will allow the state to do. So it actually is more stringent as a result of the work of the Attorney General and the state's attorney. So, they've worked hard on this. I know that they're fighting hard. They believe, as we all do, that ethylene oxide is a carcinogen, a toxin that we'd like to eliminate for the people who live in that area.
Would you support a ban?
I'll support the toughest legislation that they can muster, and I would suggest to them that they put something forward, yeah.
What about the King County dens? We've had the Jihad Squad, we've had the Klan comparison. What's going on? What have you, I know you put out a statement, but what do you make of what the King County Democrats said?
On behalf of some people who represent Kane County, I'll correct you and say Kankakee County. But as you know, a couple of days ago, the Illinois Republican County Chairs Association put out a terrible, hateful poster. They posted it on Twitter and on Facebook. I was glad to see that Republican leaders denounced it. I denounced it. So many others did. And as you saw, the Kankakee County Democratic Party, the chair posted something and removed it nearly immediately, or at least as he has said. I didn't see it originally. It was not actually up at the time when anybody paid any attention to it. It was Republicans who brought it back to life, I guess. Originally. Look, I think we've got to bring civility back to our politics. I think that we've got to stand up against hate wherever it comes from. Unfortunately, we have an environment in the United States that's being fomented by the President of the United States. I would like to eliminate that. I think the only way to do that, of course, is to defeat him in the next election. Well, I disagree with the premise of part of your question. It's not working for his reelection. He, of course, likes to foment this kind of division in the United States. He himself I have called him out as a xenophobe. as a racist. I believe that he is. He has demonstrated that in virtually every turn, and I just I think that he's going to continue to do this. I think this is the world that we live in. I think the day after the election in 2016, when my wife and I looked at each other and said, my goodness, what do we need to do now? What do we need to do now? I don't think any of us anticipated that we'd be in the situation that we're in today, 2.5 years later. But we're fighting, and we're fighting hard to hold back the efforts of his government, of his White House, to foment this kind of racism around the nation. I think we're not going to see real change until people show up at the polls in November of 2020.
Do you have a message for the immigrant community, in particular undocumented community, with the recent threat of possible rape? It seems like it hasn't happened, but people are still in fear.
Yes. People are living in fear all across the nation as a result of the policies of the Trump administration. And while those of us who are in elective office work hard to try to reverse those policies or to protect people, I think everybody should know that the state of Illinois is a state where we will stand up for our residents. These two pieces of legislation and the several others that we passed and signed during this legislature are demonstrations of that. My message to people who are living in the shadows, who are frightened and in hiding as a result of this administration, is that we are here for you. We will protect you. We will do everything that we can to reverse the course of these terrible regulations and edicts coming out of the White House, and that we will try to change the direction of the nation, but that the state of Illinois stands out as a beacon of hope, I believe, for people who are living in fear. They should know that we will stand for them. Every one of us will stand up for them every single day. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, okay, go
Yeah, I'll be due to make it. Yeah, I'll call you.
Well, it's just like, I'm gonna grab a water.
Yeah.